This episode is for Friday, February 6th, 2015. I'm your host, Josh Owens, along with my special guest co-host,
Ryan Glover.
Welcome to the show, Ryan.
Hey, man. How you doing?
Good. So, a.k.a. the Meteor Chef, right?
Yeah, out in the interwebs.
Nice. So, Rye was thoroughly exhausted this week from working on User Cycle, so he asked if I could find a co-host. So, at the last minute, Ryan graciously stepped in. But you got a hard deadline, so we'll be brief, right?
Yeah, I got to jump out of here in about 20-25 minutes.
Okay, all right. So let's get to it. So the sponsors this month are, you heard them on the pre-roll, but for those watching the show, Mongo, no, they changed their name, Compose.io and Modulus.io. I think it's everything you need to get production hosting going, so check those guys out. This week we're going to talk about cluster. We're going to talk about getting started with Cordova. It's a nice little guide I found this week. There was an interesting repo posted about React versus Blaze. MongoDB 3.0 was announced. Talk about that a little bit. And then a new package called Meteor Document Methods. So first up, we'll just talk about cluster real quick. This is a new package from Airnoda, and his goal was to replace the need for a load balancer and to also make it easier to do microservices. So if you're not familiar with it, a microservice is like a focused little app that you can publish that kind of just focuses on one piece of functionality or a couple pieces of functionality, and then you kind of stitch together a whole web app using microservices. So, for example, if you're looking at Twitter, the API would probably be like a really big example of a microservice. But something like that, like breaking your architecture apart and having these different pieces that are running, the stuff you need. So like analytics.twitter.com, that kind of thing.
I'm curious, actually. I've kind of taken advantage of stuff like Modulus because they have load balancing and this kind of stuff built in. So have you used things like this before, or do you have anything that you've used in the past?
So your other options are to do like go with Modulus, and they use stuff like actually I don't even know what they're using, but I'm guessing they've got like HA proxy or something like that under the covers. But the goal of this was to have a package that drops in place, and you just give it some environment variables, and it handles the load balancing on its own. So you can set up a balancer, and then you let it know, like each DDP, each Meteor server registers itself as a DDP endpoint, and it'll like send the traffic automatically for you. So nodes kind of being your load balancer. So
that's very cool.
Yeah, pretty awesome. So, if you're interested, Airnoda set up a YouTube video, and he talks about it a lot in there. He's got some slides. Great blog post as well. Will be in the show notes. But I would highly recommend looking at it. I actually want to play with it. I haven't had a chance yet, but I'm thinking about throwing it on Crater and see how it goes. So.
Cool. Yeah, you should do a blog post on that. I'd be curious to see how it works out.
Yeah, I'll have to do that. All right, next story.
Yeah, so next up is the Meteor Mobile Cookbook. This is a collection of helpful guides and tips for building Cordova apps, and this was actually put together by a couple of the guys at Josh's alma mater over at Differential. That's Nick, Spencer, David, and from what I can tell, it looks like the bulk of commits are by Gerard. But basically, it's just a general overview of tips and tricks for how to get your Cordova apps up and running on iOS, Android, and there's a little joke about Windows Phone in there. They wrote, just kidding. But it looks really great. It's actually pretty comprehensive. I haven't gone too far into it, and I honestly don't have a lot of experience with Cordova, but it goes over stuff like, what did I find in there? Like preparing your app for the App Store, getting it ready for iTunes Connect, creating a production build, configuring Xcode, and things like that. Well, I was going through this. I was curious, Josh, because I caught your O'Reilly screencast a few weeks back. Have you done a lot of work with Cordova, or are you?
Not a lot. I'm in the middle of a project right now, and
Yeah.
we haven't gotten to the point where we're submitting to the App Store yet. But we've got a build working with our Cordova app. Uh, the biggest thing apparently, and I don't know if this is documented in here, but we were having a conversation about kind of gotchas at our local Cincinnati meetup on Tuesday, and that's where I found out about this, and I thought, this is a great thing. Like, it should be shared with the world. And it's funny because we clicked on Android for the gotchas, and it's completely empty, and we're like, oh, Android just works, which is probably not the case. I just think they haven't focused a ton on the Android stuff yet. But
Yeah.
like Ben Strahan from Meteor Club was talking about, he built an app and he couldn't figure out why it wasn't working correctly.
Mhm.
And it turns out like Cordova doesn't seem to rebuild the entire thing every time you tell it to build. It just rebuilds parts of the application, and apparently it wasn't rebooting.
Oh.
Like, he changed the URL from HTTP to HTTPS for security purposes, and it wasn't picking up that change, and therefore he had to like wipe out his entire Meteor build folder and start from scratch.
Yikes.
And I mean, that's not that big of a deal, right? But it's just like that Meteor local build or whatever,
Mhm.
and that fixed the problem for him. So I just thought, like, we were talking about that, and Gerard ran into the same thing with Facebook and having to change the URL, and it wasn't rebuilding that part, and he was tearing his hair out trying to debug it, and it turned out like he just nuked the folder, and then everything built right.
Gotcha.
And then he
Yeah.
told me about this, and I'm like, yeah, let's get this out there.
Yeah, I mean, from what I can tell, that gotchas part is definitely the most valuable piece of this, just because that's, like, reading through that, you can tell those are the things that just hours and hours are wasted on trying to figure out.
Yeah.
But yeah, overall, definitely something, if you're working with Cordova, to check out and play around with. They also go over just like a couple of features like push notifications, splash screens, and stuff like that.
Yeah. All right. Not too much here. So the next one was React versus Blaze kind of performance. It's kind of a two-parter here. One, you got to go watch the video that's linked in the show notes, and then go to, actually, click on this link here. Okay, they do link to the video in the GitHub repo. So go to the GitHub repo. There's a link that goes to the video, and then a link that goes to the original source code if you want to see the React stuff and the comparison. Like, the video is great. He compares.
Yeah.
Well, it's mostly great, right? He left Meteor out, so maybe he's dead to me. I don't know. But he compares React with Ember and Angular, and maybe that was it. But
I think it was just the 3 screens.
yeah. But he fires up this client-side only application, and it's just sorting a list of like database queries, and the database queries are just all kind of fictional, but it's pulled from a real app, and he's like real-time sorting 100 rows on the screen, and he's just kind of showing you what the performance looks like when you're scrolling or when you're seeing little tooltip hovers and that kind of thing, and like it's very clear to me. You go to Ember and like it's super sluggish. Angular was a little better, but you could still see like herky-jerky scrolling, whereas React was like super smooth.
Yeah, React was taking care of business with that. I was impressed by that. That definitely caught my attention.
Yeah, and the other thing, and this is what I've found probably the most interesting, I may take this code and package it up, but there's a Meteor, not a Meteor, a memory stats little package that Paul Iris wrote, and he's showing that on the screen as well, and you can see there's actually a memory leak in Ember, and it's just like as it's running, the memory is just like going right up like a hockey stick, and I think it got to like 100 megs or so. And so the interesting thing is you go to this GitHub repo, you pull this thing down, and it's basically the Meteor version of the same application. So there's like some data that gets inserted, and then pub sub, I think. Is that true? Let me click in here and look at the packages. No, auto publish is still there, so there's probably no pub sub, but it inserts some data in the server and then syncs it over to the client, I'm pretty sure.
Actually, I haven't had a chance to play with this. Have you gotten it up and running on your machine?
Yeah, I got it running. And the cool part was, so it's better at performance than Angular Ember were, but it's, you get like the ever so slightly herky-jerkies when you're trying to scroll, and the tooltips could be a little faster, and, it's set to like a 0 timeout for moving the table rows around. It's a little slower than React. Like it's noticeable, right? Even though I don't side by side. But the most interesting thing to me was the fact that like every client-side framework was well above 10 megs, and when you load this thing up, like it stayed at a solid 9.5 megabytes for me, and like there was no memory leakage. Like it was just sitting there at 9.5 megabytes. So
very interesting. So
I say kudos to MDG.
Yeah, definitely. So one thing I'm really curious about, though, is technically React can sit on top of Meteor, right?
Mm-hmm.
And in that case, I think I asked a question on Crater. I don't know if I got a response, but would something like that replace Blaze altogether, or can it kind of intermingle with it, or do you know how that would work?
That's a great question, and I'm not sure I know the answer. So my initial thoughts on it would be like, you could put React in there and then just maybe not use parts of Blaze, but I still think Blaze is gonna load its libraries and be sitting there. So
yeah.
I don't know. So I think you could remove the web component and maybe piece together the pieces you want instead, and maybe not include Blaze, and that would be a way you could accomplish it.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
I've never tried, so could be talking out my butt here.
Cool.
Yeah.
Wait, want to move on here?
Yeah.
Cool. So up next we've got MongoDB 3.0. This caught my attention the other day, but full disclosure, I'm not much of a database guy. I take full advantage of how simple Meteor makes interacting with the database layer. But basically what they've said is this will be generally available in March. They're kind of finishing testing and putting touches on. I don't know if there's a beta or anything available. But they're kind of boasting this as having massive improvements to performance and scalability. And this one is kind of dorky, I don't really understand. Enabled by comprehensive improvements in the storage layer.
Yeah, so if you're not familiar with it, like MySQL, you can change out the storage engines on MySQL, and it looks like they've taken a similar approach here. They now have what they call the Wired Tiger storage engine. It sounds fierce, I don't know. But I actually believe there was like they like acquired a company that was building this technology, and
okay.
And so they've been working to wire it in, but they're claiming like a 7 to 10x better write performance, and you can turn on compression, and they're saying like you can use up to 80% less storage space. I feel like I'm maybe reading an Apple press release or something like. I'm curious, like, once somebody puts this through the paces, if it'll live up to those kind of claims. Because whenever you see up to, I'm always like a little suspicious, like, up to, what's the average and stuff like that. But I don't know, if they can actually, back that up in production, that would be awesome. Yeah, I agree. And, the big question is, what are the changes to oplog and that kind of thing, because those are probably the things that would affect Meteor the most, Do you know offhand what version of Mongo Meteor is running right now? I think it's supposed to be compatible with 2.4, but you can run it with 2.6. Okay. And there are some comments around that if you look on Crater, Aaron Noda was talking about it, and he's probably one of the guys more anxious to get his hands on Mongo 3.0 because they've got Kadira just deals with a huge amount of data. Yeah. And so he definitely wants to see this. So. Oh yeah, here you go. There's actually a comment by
Slavic Chem. It says moving slowly to 2.6 thanks to Glasser. So it seems like they're kind of slowly upgrading.
Mm-hmm. Of course, you know, it's funny. Like, they'll get to 2.6 right as 3.0 comes out.
Yeah.
But, you know, I'm guessing a lot of these features under the hood will just work, right? Like, you can use the Wired Tiger stuff on 3.0 without worrying about anything else. So as long as they haven't, like, broken any APIs or changed anything major, then theoretically this should just still work. But, you know, if they've made some changes in Oplog, like being able to subscribe to just what you care about in Oplog, like, that would be amazing for Meteor, actually. All right. Good stuff. So the last story here is I wanted to highlight this new package because I thought it was interesting. Like, they left a comment on a blog post of mine, like, hey, you know, I wanted to contribute to the whole ORM discussion, and I made a package. And it's kind of based on the idea of collection helpers, in that he's wiring up some little syntactic sugars for you, right? Like, so rather than calling my collection.update with, you know, this ._ID, you just call this $set, and then you hand it your data. And it looks like he's got set, he's got save, he's got $push, add to set, like, just everything you could think of. And you need, like, the individual Mongo collection object, you know, one document, and then you're able to just call this stuff on it. You can even call update and then pass stuff underneath, like $set and $add to set. What's this last one?
Man, I have to play with this. There's a lot of nice little helpers in here.
Yeah, he's got $remove too. That's, you know, that's the way it should be, in my opinion. This is brilliant. I love this. So I really, really wanted to highlight this because I initially I missed having an ORM, but I think, you know, when I look at these are the little niceties that I missed out of my ORM. So. Yeah. It is really nice that you can get this. So to me, like, I always use, lately it's just been collection hooks and collection helpers, and this is going to become a staple as well.
That's cool. So when was this originally released? Just the past couple of days?
Well, he made noise about it the past couple of days on Crater, probably 4 days ago.
Okay.
But if we go back, let's see, just 5 days ago.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, definitely something to play with because this looks like a huge time saver.
Yeah. Definitely. R. Cly? I don't know how you say his GitHub name, but it's pretty awesome. I'm pretty excited about it. So.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. You got a few minutes left, so I will just ask you a question or two if you don't mind.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, what are you working on right now? Like, what kind of interesting Meteor things are you doing, Ryan?
A couple of things. One, you actually got tipped off to this the other day. You were asking me about it. I'm working on a job board for Meteor, something that's a little more dressed up than what's out there now. Nobody kind of get me with a pitchfork. You know, try and turn it into a business. So that's coming out in a couple of weeks here. We'll see where I get. I'm kind of slugging my way through development work. And aside from that, wrapping up loose ends on part 2 of that Stripe recipe. So
that was a good post. Yeah, thank you. It's awesome. Yeah, I know how it goes with client work. Like, I've been doing, I've got 2 clients right now, so it's been kind of crazy.
Yeah, it'll keep you busy.
Yeah. I've actually hired someone to work with me too, so.
Oh, cool. You're moving up.
Yeah, trying. Yeah, and then today, like, the whole reason you're even on this podcast is because, was it yesterday? Maybe someone yesterday recommended, you joined into the Meteor Club chat room, and
yeah,
it's just like last minute where I was like, oh, I'm so tired. Can you maybe find someone? And then I was like, I just asked on the Meteor Club Slack chat room, like, hey, does anyone want to fill in? And you're like, yeah, I can do it.
Yeah, definitely. We should give a hat tip to Ben Strahan because he was the one who was like, "Hey, you should get in on this. I think you'd like it."
Yeah, definitely. So, if you want to come talk with all the, I was realizing now we've got four book authors are in the chat
Oh,
room as
cool.
well. So we've got Sasha and Manuel, Stefan, and Sam. So good collection there. If you wanna like have access to these people and have a cool chat room to hang out in all day long, talk about Meteor, go to patreon.com/Meteor Club and feel free to sign up there for sure. And I'm just pulling it up real quick. We had one new member this week. So many clicks. Someone should tell them to like make it easier to get to their page here.
On Patreon, you mean?
Yeah, like seeing my list of patrons is kind of ridiculous to get to. See here. Gosh. Only I can find it easy. Figures. The one time I need to get to it. Yeah. I feel like they've changed this now since like 2 days ago.
Startups.
Yeah. Crazy startups. Well, we got a new one. I'll make sure we say his name next week. But we are at $100, so we're not quite halfway, but we're getting close to the 250 mark, in which we'll start a new podcast. So, yeah, we're getting close.
What's the topic for the new podcast?
It'll be more of a roundtable with multiple people, and it'll probably be a longer format, once a week. So we'll have some regulars on, and then we'll invite special guests in and that kind of thing. Similar to Ruby Rogues or JavaScript Jabber or something like that.
Oh, very cool.
Which bonus mention, if you want to check it out, if you go to devchat.tv, you can get to JavaScript Jabber and check out Matt. He was on the latest episode, Matt DeBergalis. So.
Yeah, I was listening to that this morning. It's a really good interview.
Yeah, nice. All right, guys. Well, thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next week.
Cool. Take it easy.